After 5 years as a delivery worker, I never thought a single order could cost me my life. That night, close to midnight, I received an order for 2 servings of chicken rice. The delivery address was a house on the outskirts of the city. Even though I had a bad feeling about it, I had not received a single order all day, so I gritted my teeth and accepted it. When I arrived, I saw an old, desolate house standing alone in the middle of the woods. A cold gust of wind blew against me, sending shivers down my spine. I knocked on the door, but no one answered, so I took out my phone and called the customer.
The door is unlocked. Bring it inside.
I hesitated, but pushed the door open. The musty smell immediately filled my nose, making me grimace. The air inside was cold, as if no one had lived there for a long time.
I have your delivery. Is anyone here?
At that moment, the sound of a knife chopping down on wood, thick, heavy, and sharp, resounded from a room inside. I jumped, my heart pounding. Carefully, I tiptoed toward the door, and the scene before me made my stomach churn. A man was chopping a human arm. On the table, severed body parts were laid out in pieces. I screamed in terror. The thick, metallic scent of blood choked my throat, and I collapsed onto the floor.
You harmed someone. I have to call the police. Stay and help me, or I'll put you on this table next.
My entire body froze at his words. Fear forced me to turn back and help him pack the body parts into black bags. Each time my hands touched the cold, lifeless flesh, it felt as if thousands of insects were crawling over my skin. After we finished cleaning up, he ordered me to dispose of the black bags. Trembling, I carried them to a deserted riverside, tossing each one into the water before hurrying away. But as soon as I turned around, the man was already behind me, gripping a knife tightly, his cold eyes staring into mine.
You did well, but you still have to die. I did everything you asked. Please let me go. Let you go? You've seen everything. You can't live. I promise I won't tell anyone. Just let me go. The only way to keep a secret is to take it to the grave.
With that, he lunged at me. I dodged just in time, the blade grazing my arm and burning my skin. Enraged, he raised the knife again, his grip tightening as he thrust forward. On reflex, I grabbed his wrist, stopping the blade just inches from my face. His strength was terrifying. I used all my force to shove him back, making him stumble. Seizing the moment, I grabbed a rock from the ground and hurled it at his head. He cried out in pain, clutching his head as he staggered. I sprinted to my car, speeding away as I called the police. But by the time they arrived, the man had disappeared without a trace. A few days later, I returned home only to be greeted by a horrifying sight. A bloodied human arm lay in the middle of my floor. On the wall, a message was scrawled in dark red blood. You will have to disappear.
Did you really think you could escape me?
I spun around, locking eyes with the man. He aimed a gun at my head.
Please, I'll give you anything you want. I want your life.
In that instant, I grabbed his wrist, struggling to wrestle the gun upward. A gunshot rang out. The bullet struck the ceiling, sending dust falling around us. I jolted, loosening my grip, and he kicked my stomach hard, sending me crashing to the floor. I tried to push myself up, but before I could, his heavy foot slammed down onto my chest, pinning me against the cold tiles.
Don't waste your strength. You won't escape.
At that moment, my hand brushed against my phone in my pocket. Without hesitation, I yanked it out and hurled it at his face. With every ounce of strength left in me, I scrambled up, shoving him aside as I dashed toward the door. But before I could get far, a gunshot rang out. A searing pain shot through my leg, and I collapsed onto the floor.
You little rat. Let's see where you'll run now.
I refused to give up. Gritting my teeth, I crawled forward. Another shot rang out, piercing my other leg. I screamed in agony as my body convulsed and the world blurred.
Say goodbye to the world.
Suddenly, the door burst open with a loud bang. The man froze, eyes widening in shock. Before he could react, A bullet shot straight into his chest. Dark red blood slowly spread across his shirt. Police officers swarmed in, surrounding the house. I exhaled shakily, my body going limp as I shut my eyes in relief. It was finally over. I was rushed to the hospital, my legs soaked in blood. Though the killer was dead, the memory of that night haunted me every second of my life. The images replayed in my mind like a never-ending horror film with no escape. I grew up in a wealthy family, with both my parents being successful entrepreneurs. However, a tragedy struck, and I lost everything. My mother passed away in an accident, but less than 2 months later, my father married a woman named Lisa. At first, Lisa appeared to be a gentle and caring woman, always trying to win my father's favor. But whenever it was just the two of us, her gaze was always filled with resentment. When she looked at me one day, as I was walking down the hallway, I accidentally overheard her talking to someone on the phone.
I have to get rid of that boy, Daniel, first. He could interfere with my plans.
I felt my heart stop, a wave of fear spreading through me. Why would she want to do this to me? I immediately told my father, but he said I must have misheard and was imagining things. His reaction left me feeling disappointed, as if my fears didn't matter at all. With no one to confide in, I went to find my cat, but I was horrified to see it lying motionless in the basement. I froze in shock and rushed to its side. There was a deep cut on its neck, almost severing its head. Suddenly, a rope tightened around my neck, pulling so hard that my lungs felt like they were on fire.
I will make you disappear.
I struggled desperately, but the rope only tightened further, making me feel dizzy. With all the strength I had left, I threw my head back, striking Lisa's stomach. She stumbled backward, loosening her grip just enough. Taking the chance, I quickly pulled the rope off my neck and turned to glare at Lisa in anger.
What are you doing? Why are you doing this to me?
You've been in my way for too long. I don't want to see you anymore.
You were the one who killed my cat?
That's right. And not just the cat, you're next.
With that, she lunged at me, grabbing my throat and slamming me against the wall. Her fingers tightened around my neck, cutting off my air. My breaths became short and ragged. Clenching my fist, I used all my strength to punch her directly in the eye. She cried out in pain and loosened her grip. Seizing the opportunity, I kicked her away and lunged for a hammer on the nearby shelf.
Stop! Don't come any closer!
Lisa pulled out a knife from her pocket and charged at me like a wild beast. Panicked, I instinctively raised the hammer and swung it down on her head. Terrified, I let go of the hammer, my legs shaking as I stared at her motionless body.
Daniel, what have you done? I didn't mean to. She wanted to harm me? Shut up. Lisa could never have harmed you.
I watched him in despair. No matter how much I explained, he wouldn't believe me. Lisa died on the way to the hospital, and my father, without hesitation, handed me over to the police. After investigating, the police found messages between Lisa and her lover, plotting to harm my father and me for our wealth. Lisa secretly poisoned my father's daily milk and then planned to get rid of me to secure the inheritance. This poison had a slow effect, gradually weakening the body over time without arousing suspicion. When my father learned the truth, he was devastated, blaming himself for being so blindly trusting. As for me, even though I was cleared of all charges, the wounds in my heart never healed. They remained embedded in my mind like an endless, haunting nightmare.
I was an online seller and had just moved into a new house to support my business. Luckily, I found a rather spacious house in a small neighborhood, and the rent was incredibly reasonable. During the first few nights living there, I was often awakened by the sound of scissors echoing from the next room. I thought to myself, could it be a thief? Summoning all my courage, I went out to check. But as soon as I opened the door, the sound disappeared, and the door to the other room remained tightly shut. Everything seemed normal, as if nothing had happened, so I tiredly returned to my bedroom. A while later, I was woken up again by the same sound, but this time it was louder and more urgent. A growing sense of unease crept over me, and my heart pounded in my chest. I got out of bed and went to the next room, but just like before, nothing seemed out of the ordinary. As I was about to close the door, I suddenly noticed a woman standing in the middle of the room, her head bowed. She was holding a pair of rusty scissors, the blades dripping with a thick, dark liquid onto the floor. I stood frozen in the doorway, my legs glued to the ground, unable to move. "Who are you? Why are you in my house?" The woman didn't answer. Instead, she slowly lifted her face and it was no longer intact. Her mouth had been slit open all the way to her ears and deep scratches covered her face, oozing fresh blood. Terrified, I let out a scream, only to realize I was lying in bed with sunlight streaming in through the window. Was it just a dream? But the fear felt so real and cold sweat drenched my body. Unable to shake off my unease, I decided to call the landlord to ask about the woman. However, he dismissed my concerns, saying he knew nothing, before hurriedly hanging up. I had a gut feeling that he was hiding something about the history of the house. That night, the events repeated themselves, but this time, the sound seemed to be right next to my ear. Frightened, I squeezed my eyes shut, trying to block out the chilling noise. Moments later, the sound suddenly stopped, and I thought that perhaps it was finally over. But when I opened my eyes, I was horrified to see the woman floating above me on the ceiling, laughing eerily. Her face drew closer and closer, her icy breath sending shivers down my spine. Overcome with terror, I screamed, mustering all my strength to leap out of bed and dash out of the house. Her sinister laughter echoed behind me, following every step I took. That night, I booked a nearby hotel to stay in, desperate to get away from that cursed house. The next morning, as I returned, I ran into a neighbor who had just come back from somewhere. "Hello, ma'am. I just moved into the house across the street."
You live in that house?
"Yes, but I'm planning to move out today. Is there something wrong?"
A long time ago, a woman was brutally murdered by her husband in that house.
"Why did her husband do that?"
She was having an affair, and when her husband found out, he slit her face and then killed her before turning himself into the police.
"I saw her last night. Her face was horrifying."
Ever since she died, she's been haunting that house, scaring off women with beautiful faces like yours.
A chill ran down my spine, sending a wave of goosebumps over my skin. Did you often go to the library at night? I once had a terrifying experience staying there after dark. I was a sophomore majoring in education, a book enthusiast to the point of forgetting to eat and sleep. The university library was my paradise, a place where I could immerse myself in every word. But it closed too early, and the most precious books were not allowed to be taken home. One day, while wandering between the bookshelves, I discovered a hidden corner where the security cameras couldn't reach. A bold idea struck me. I pulled a book from the shelf, quietly slipped into the hidden spot, and held my breath as I waited. The sound of the library doors locking echoed, followed by the librarian's departing footsteps. I sighed in relief, thrilled as I opened the book and lost myself in my own world. Just as I was engrossed in reading, a faint sound like someone flipping through pages broke the silence. Is there still someone here at this hour? Cautiously, I got up and followed the sound, but the moment I got close, it abruptly stopped. Right then, A long, chilling whistle echoed from behind me. Under the dim moonlight filtering through the glass windows, I saw a pair of blood-red eyes staring at me. The eyes moved closer, revealing the figure of a young man with pale, ghostly skin. A shiver ran down my spine. Panicked, I screamed and turned to run. When I reached the library doors, I suddenly remembered they were locked. There was no way out. I collapsed to the floor, tears streaming down my face as I desperately cried for help. The young man appeared before me, his hollow eye sockets writhing with swarming insects. Those insects began falling onto my head, my arms. I shrieked in terror, frantically scratching at my skin to get rid of the writhing creatures. Just then, the flashlight flickered, and he vanished, leaving only the sound of rushing footsteps. My body trembled uncontrollably, my heart pounding as if it would burst from my chest. A security guard rushed in, hastily unlocking the doors and pulling me outside.
Why are you here at this hour?
There was a ghost inside. My entire body felt drained, the eerie sensation still clinging to me. The next day, as I sat in the cafeteria, my hands still trembled while holding my glass of water. Suddenly, Jane, a close sister figure to me, sat down across from me, her eyes filled with concern.
What's wrong? You don't look well.
Last night, I saw a ghost in the library. It was terrifying.
Why were you in the library at night? It closes in the evening.
Slowly, I recounted the entire story from the night before. She sighed deeply before revealing a chilling truth. 2 years ago, a young man had been pushed out of the library window by a group of classmates and died. But to protect the university's reputation, the school declared that he had taken his own life due to depression. The bullies escaped punishment thanks to their family's influence. After that incident, the school decided to stop allowing the library to stay open late. I haven't dared to return to the library since that night. But every time I pass by, I always feel like someone is standing inside, watching me.